Hi there, right, I'm the Rev. This video is all about Brew in the Bag. It is going to be like Brew in the Bag 101. It is for people who want to get into all grain, who don't want to spend money on mash tun, who don't want to go out there and basically out a lot of money. What I'm going to show you is my kit, my setup. Lots of this is just other people's stuff. I use it, I learned a lot of here. I'm just trying to put a bit back. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to walk outside. I'm going to show you the brew pot. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to make a brew pot and tell you other options you've got. So first and foremost, we'll go outside and we'll have a look at this brew pot. Right, and so a brew pot consists of one 11-gallon keg, one brass fitting tap. That box on the end is just to cover the electrics that I used for heating it, because it's an electric heat one, and all that is a washing machine element, which you can see there inside. The piece in the middle of the washing machine element is just where the probe would have been when it was in a washing machine. You also need a brew bag. So brew bag. It is a nylon bag. I don't normally use a nylon bag. I make bags, but for this video it's a bought nylon bag, and all I've done is, because you need your brew bag to go over the top of your pot. These nylon bags aren't big enough to go over the top of a keg, so I cut the top out of a fermenter so the brew bag can go over, and then I can tie that underneath so that will not fall out of the brew bag. So I can stand that in my top of my keg and it'll just sit there absolutely fine. It won't drop inside, because obviously you want to go inside, because you don't want your grains, which we'll talk about in a second, to get mixed in with your water. You want them to stay separate for your brew in a bag. It makes life so much easier. You could, instead of using a big brew pot like that, you could buy, lots of the American lads use turkey boilers. Basically, say something about a 40 pint, 50 litre pan, big old, proper big old boiler pot on it, and you can use that in a big gas ring. But again, you don't want to do it in your house, because when you boil off, throughout the process of this, you will boil it for an hour. Doing that, you will boil off about 3 to 5 litres of liquid, depending on your brew pot. You do that in your house is going to be very wet, very quickly. So, there is videos out there on making brew kettles. They're called kegels. Look it up. I've got a video on there. There's loads of lads got videos on there on how to make them. You don't have to do electric, as I say. You can buy the big gas burners and do a gas one. Quite as simple. I use electric. I have solar panels. Electric's free for me during the day. So we'll be getting brewing. So the next thing you need is a recipe. There is loads of recipes out there. You could go on, one of the better ones at the moment that I've found is Brewer's Friend, because they have a big piece all on Brew in the Bag, because the recipes are slightly different between Brew in a Bag and using a mash tun. So for what we're doing today, we're going to be using 5 kilos of Marisota, 300 grams of crystal, medium crystal, 150 grams of terrified wheat. Hop additions are going to be 30 grams of East Kent Goldens for 60 minutes, 15 grams of Fuggles for 30 minutes, 10 grams of Fuggles for 15 minutes, 10 grams of Fuggles for 10 minutes, 10 grams of Fuggles for flame out. At the moment that might not mean a lot to you. Hopefully by the end of this video you will understand what that is. So, give us 1 second and I'll be back. So, the grain bill, as it's referred to as, is all in me bucket. All mixed in together. It doesn't matter how well mixed up it's going to be, because it's going to get all mixed up when it goes in the bag. So, you can see in there, you get all that with the camera, that's all crushed. I don't have a grain mill. All I do is I buy all my grains pre-crushed. So, what we need to do is, we need to get the boil pot turned on, get your water in, and the start water for this recipe is 35 litres of water in your pot. Heat on, thermometer in. You want to be bringing that up to 60 degrees centigrade Once you get that to 60 degrees centigrade, that's when it's time to put the mash in. This, your grain bill, mash in, put it in a bit at a time. You don't want to dump it all in. I won't be able to actually video that bit because, well, I work on an iPad and outside I haven't got anywhere to put my iPad. So this has just come up to temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mash in, and then I'm going to come back and try and explain a couple of parts of this recipe to you and how the recipe works, and show you the hops what I'm using and how I'll put them in. So I'm going to get mashed in, and I'll come back and have a chat with you. So right, so that's that mashed in. As you can see in that, where we at on the far wall, over there, there's a clock. It is 12 o'clock, so you can keep an eye on that, so you can see how long this process takes. Believe me, it takes a little while. So, first and foremost, the recipe. So now I've mashed in, what I'll do is I'll leave that in for 10 minutes. This is what's referred to as protein rest. It basically starts your grain working, because what you're doing is you're getting sugars out for yeast to eat to make alcohol. That's it. Nice and simple in a nutshell. You will get different sugars at different temperatures, but we're not going to go into that today because this is 101. You don't need to know that at the moment. All you need to know is mash it at 60, bring your temperature, once you're at 60, 10 minutes, and we're going to bring our temperature up to 66. Once it's 66, we're going to leave it for a whole hour. Then we're going to raise it again to 73. Once it's 73, we're going to start our timer again. We're going to keep it at 73 for 10 minutes. That's called mashing out. Then we're going to lift our grain bill out, and we're going to wring that grain bill out, and we're going to get as much of the liquid out of that grain bill as we can. And then what's left in the boil pot, we're going to boil. And now once that comes up to a boil, we're going to then start our timer. And our timer is going to be for an hour. So, for an hour, 60 minutes, we're going to put this one in. What this is a bit of a tight with 30 grams of East Kent Coldens in. That goes in for an hour. Then once half an hour's gone, put this one in. This is same type, it's the same hop. It's a Fuggles hop, but it's a leaf hop, but it's compressed into a little square block. That's 15 grams, and that's going to go in for 30 minutes. Then once after 15 minutes, we're going to pop one of these in, which is another bit of Fuggles, 10 grams. Then after 5 minutes, that's going to go in, because we'll have 10 minutes left. And then when we turn the heat off, we'll put the last one in. That's when I said a 60-minute addition, a 30-minute addition. It's how many minutes is left in the boil. Not how many minutes have gone, it's how many minutes is left to flame out. And flame out, you just turn the heat off and pop the last one in, because your initial hops that go in, they're for bittering. They're the big flavour there behind. You know what I mean? Like what makes the beer, how bitter it's going to be. The more you add, the more bitter your beer will be. Then once you get past 30 minutes, from 30 minutes to flame out, these are all adding flavour and aroma. The later the hop addition, the more aroma you'll get off it. So if you put the whole lot in at flame out, you will have lots and lots of hoppy aroma. But you won't have a great deal of hop flavour. Hop flavour tends to have to be in a little bit earlier. So between, I think, between about halfway, like for the last half an hour to the last 10-15 minutes, that's where you're going to get your flavour from your hops. The last 15 minutes is all about the aroma. So, what else have we got? Irish moss. Purely and simply to make your beer clear. Nothing other. It doesn't matter if it's cloudy, it's all about presentation, this stuff. That's it. I never used it well, I say a long now. I never used it at first. I've just started using it. It does work, yeah. It does help. There is other products on the market you can use, but it seems to be the stuff that a lot of people are using. So, what else have we got at the moment? So, no, that's it for the time being. What we're going to do is, because you can see, look at that clock, 6 minutes gone. we're going to nip back outside and we're going to get this checked to make sure your temperatures. You've got to keep an eye on them temperatures. That's the most important part at the moment is temperatures, 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 until we get to the end of the mash. Once we get to the end of the mash, temperatures we'll forget about, then it's all about timing. So, I'll speak this in a bit. Right, so we've just checked that mash and it dropped a little bit because basically once it goes in, so I've got my water in the pan, my bag inside, the grains inside there, all mixed up nice, so it's a bit like porridge. Bang a lid on, and you want to keep that temperature right. It's outside, so it has dropped a little bit. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to put my heater back on, and we're going to bring that temperature back up just a little bit. So we're probably going to go over the 10 minutes, just by a few minutes. And then we're going to get the heat right back on it, and then we're going to get it up to the 66 for the hour. So I probably won't sort this anymore until we have the hour up. So looking at that clock, it's 10 past 12. So this will probably, I'm going to carry on doing the protein rest for another 5 minutes. That'll take us to 1:15. So I'll speak to you 1:15. Right, so that's an hour gone by, as you can see by little clock. The temperature did fluctuate just a little bit, which it does often do. You've got to remember, you know, I mean, I'm using it basically, it's a big metal pot and it will lose heat. The lads have wrapped them in stuff, and I've seen them where they've been wrapped in like, it's foam covered like with aluminium foil to try and keep the heat in, wrapped in blankets. I just keep turning the heat element on and off, it works for me. So, next stages, we're going to lift the mash up to 73 degrees, which it's actually on doing itself at the moment. Elements on. I'll recircle a little bit, and what I mean by recircle is I'll where the tap on the bottom, I'll take a little bit of the water out the bottom and then pour it back through the mash, which is a quicker way of heating it up than just trying to heat the water up around to slowly bring the temperature of the mash up, because the water around the mash will always be warmer than the mash itself. Obviously the mash is thicker than the liquid around it, but when you get to the end, if you watch other videos, you'll see people doing iodine tests. Iodine's not that easily available now. You still get it at every chemist. Now you can't get all of it, so it's buying it in, it's shipping. All depends how close you live to a place that's got it. There's nowhere around me got it. So all I do is I just taste the water. It tastes sweet if you've had conversion. Remember, you're taking sugars out of grains. If you don't take sugars out, you'll take starch, and starch doesn't taste sweet. I have said this on other videos. If you're not sure what starch tastes like, cut a potato in half and lick it. That is starch. It tastes awful. You will know the difference between that and sugar. So, I'm going to go and keep the eye on this, because again, when I get the temperature to rise, you don't want it to rise too high too quickly. I want it to get to 73 and I want it to hold there for 10 minutes. Again, in this video, I'm not going to go into the different names of the different sugars. If you want to look at that, you probably shouldn't be watching this video, because this is a beginner's video. It's not for anybody who's that worried about the names of all the different sugars and that. That's stuff you need to learn later on, and I mean a lot later on. You know, again, I'm not going to use a hydrometer today. I've no interest in a hydrometer today for the grounds of I don't need to know how much sugar I've got. I don't need to know how strong my beer is going to be. I know by this recipe, when you put it into one of the different recipe engines, it'll tell you what you're supposed to hit. I've done this, and I think too many people spend too much time worrying about not hitting exactly what them figures say. You might not, you might be slightly over, you might be slightly under. I'm not that bothered about how strong it is. I know it's not going to be 10%. I'm hoping it's not going to be 3%. I'll know by the time that's finished off how strong it is when I'm drinking it. And as long as it tastes nice, I'm not that bothered. I'm not in it for how much alcohol. I mean, if I wanted to make anything really strong, I would just do kits and bang, boatloads of sugar in. I'm more worried about how nice it tastes. That's all I go for, is how nice it tastes. So, again, later on you want to go, hydrometer, champion eye, check it, make sure you're hitting the right numbers. You know what your original gravity is, you know what your final gravity is. Yeah, fine. But for your first few, I wouldn't bother. I really don't think it's that necessary. Those people disagree. Hey, that's what it's all about. Everyone has their own little ideas. So, I'm going to go and check on this and taste it to make sure I have got conversion. I can smell it then over conversion, I'm not that worried. And then what I'll do is I'll stick it on to boil, and then I'll probably take it outside and hold the camera for a bit just to show you what the boil looks like. Because again, this was another thing when I first started. People talk about a hot hop, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's basically where it all bubbles up and you'll get a nice big foamy crust on the top, which if you're not careful will boil over the top of your pan. And that's when you start your timer for your hour. So, once I get this onto the boil, I'll then come back to you and I'll get you started with that. Cheers! Right, another thing while we're just waiting for that mash to finish off at 73 degrees, yeast I'll be using is the Wilco's £1.50 I think these are. I buy loads of them, this is all the yeast I use. From what I've been led to believe, this is like a Nottingham Ale yeast, which you normally would pay £2.50 for, £1.5 at Wilco's, and they're a bigger sachet. These are 11 grams. Again, loads of people out there, I'm not knocking them, will do this and they'll start it off. I don't. That's just going to get hide on the top, because once we're finished with the boil, I haven't got a water chiller. Again, I do everything on the cheap. I haven't got a water chiller, I haven't got an outside tap either. So I have to leave mine just to cool down. Some people do transfer it over into a cube and let it cool down. I just stick that once mine's finished boiling, I let mine cool down in the boil pot. And then tomorrow, when it's nice and cold, all I'll do is then put it over into a fermenter. And by then what will happen is a lot of the big chunks of like the protein and that will have all settled down nicely in the bottom. You'll hear about people doing whirlpools and that. Again, my hops I don't have to strain out because they're all in little individual bags. So I don't have problems with mashes getting stuck in me, the hops getting stuck in the tap on the kettle. It's just, again, another thing what's easy and it's cheap. So, as I say, I'll leave that to go cold overnight tomorrow. Don't get us wrong, it's not the best way. The best way is to crash cool it. You know, you get a much clearer product. But this is for me. This is just for drinking. This isn't for competition. This isn't for showing off. This is just for pure and simply a cheap way of making 40 pints of beer. All told, the brew pot, because I got the keg for free, the brew pot cost about £12, £14. The grains and that bill for a day cost about a tenner. Yeah. The hops, well, the hops were probably about £8 for the bags of hops, and I'll probably get, that was for 100 grams of East Kent Goldens, and I've only got to use 30, and that would be for 100 grams of the Fuggles as well. The Fuggles was quite expensive from where I got them from. I paid £6 for a 150 gram pack, which is quite expensive. And the Goldens was probably only about £3.5 to £4 for a 100 gram pack. But you get a few brews out of one pack. All depends on how much hop you're putting in. But as I said, that's why I do it. I do it because it is cheap, and this is a much cheaper way of doing it than having a 3-pot system. HLT, hot liquor tank, mash tun, big cooler, with normally lads are using copper grids in the bottom so you can extract your wort without getting the grains to come through, and then you need your boil pot, then your fermenter, and then storage as well. I only have a little house. I haven't got like any shed outside to storing the equipment in, so that's how I found this, and it works very, very well for me. I haven't got any problems with the beer I'm making, and other people who've tried it think it's okay as well, so it's a win-win situation for me. Anyways, I'm not going to waffle on any longer. I'm going to get cracked on and get this boiling. Right then, so 2 o'clock now. It is time to start the hop additions. So what I've done is I've actually wrapped the boil pot. The boil pot sometimes struggles to boil. I've only got one element in. It's only 2001 element, so it should really have 2 in. But at the moment, all I do is I just wrap it. You'll see in a set my tea outside, but I just wrap it in a duvet, and it boils fine. It's boiling its way now. So we'll nip outside. Right, and so That's her there boiling away like a good one. You know what we'll do is take the first top edition, hide it in the pot. So that's the first top edition in, and it is 5 past, well, we'll say 2 o'clock when it went in. So at 2:30 is the next one, which is the Fuggles. See, normally, again, you can like just set a timer away, where I would normally have my timer on the iPad, which I am recording this on, so I haven't got the timer going. I'll use the clock. You don't have to be ready to the second. It's just easy if you've got something to remind you something, you can do other things. You don't have to worry about forgetting to put one in. So I'll tick them off as I put them in. So that's the first one in, ticked off. As you saw, the rest are all weighed out, ready to go, so it's quite simple. The other thing is, anybody who's coming to do this from kit brewing, you'll notice nothing gets sanitised. Not a thing. At the moment, because everything's going to get boiled. So, don't get us wrong, everything's got washed, everything's been rinsed, but I don't need to use sanitiser on the boil pot or anything, because, as I said, it is going to be boiled. So all I did was, because I store mine outside with a big plastic jacket over it, all I do is I just rinse it, give it a wash out, bit soapy water, wash it out, then just make sure it's well rinsed before I fill it. Everything else, it'll just get cleaned as it gets boiled. The only thing I need to sanitise will be my fermenter, for obviously for tomorrow when it all gets put in. Because basically what I'll do is I'll show you the next couple of hop editions. I'm not going to record them all. Well, actually I probably won't show you anymore. They're all exactly the same. When it gets to 30 minutes left of the boil, I'll put the next one in. Then 15 minutes left of the boil, the next one goes in. 10 minutes left of the boil, one goes in. And flame out. Flame out, all it is literally, I turn the electric off. I put the last one in. And then, so by then, all of them will be in, floating about. And I leave it for 10 minutes with the flame turned off. Then after 10 minutes, I scoop them all out. Oil them all away. And then what's left, don't put a lid on. Never put a lid on a boiling pot, because it gives you some strange old flavours. Supposedly, I don't know, I've never ever done it with a lid on, but there's so many people out there saying don't do it with a lid on. It's got to have something in it. I just don't want to waste a whole brew by doing one with a lid on to find it tastes horrible. But so what I'll do is I'll leave that with no lid on, no cover, nothing. It'll put, basically I'll just put a cloth over the top, and that will stay like that for about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours. I'll leave it like that just so it can cool down. Then I'll put a lid on, and then it'll just stay out there overnight with the lid on till tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning I'll probably do another little bit of video. Then I'll stick it into a fermenter, airlock on, and that'll be it. And then the next piece of the video will be probably me taste it, which if you watch this, you'll have to look at my homebrew Wednesdays for after the fermenting, because I'll just be doing this up until where it gets it into the fermenter. From the fermenter on over, you'll just have to look at homebrew Wednesdays. And on my channel to find them is literally just HBW and then there's numbers. So today I've done Homebrew Wednesday number 14. So this will probably be on Homebrew Wednesday 17, 16, somewhere around there. But yeah, that's where you'll have to look to find out what it tasted like and how it turned out. Because from going in the ferment, all the updates will be just on me Homebrew Wednesdays. So as I said, about Homebrew Wednesdays, well, say 15, 16, 17, because I'll mention it in all three of them. So if you see this in 5 years' time, that's where you need to look. And it's HBW, and it'll be today I did number 14, so it's 15, 16 and 17. See you in a bit, lads. Right then, so the day after. Well, you've got to watch the clock down. It took about 3 hours. It'll take us 2 hours to clean the kit, because I haven't got anywhere big enough. It's a bit of a fart on, because I used to wash it out in the bath, and then my missus caught us, and she isn't happy about that. So I have to mess around bit by bit trying to get it clean. And I always, once I've washed my boil pot out, I always fill it full of water and put it back on to boil. So it'll be washed out and rinsed out and everything, and then I boil it, and then the water that comes out the bottom of it rinses all the tap and everything out, and it means, because you can't always get cleaned all the way around the element, I find it's better to do it that way. That's hence why it takes us so long. It probably only takes half an hour to wash out, but then by the time I filled it with water and bring it all the way up to the boil, you don't have to do that. Hey, it's up to you. You can only leave it dirty. It makes no difference to my beer. So I'm going to show you, because now it's in the fermenter, and I've just pitched the yeast. I have taken a hydrometer reading for those of you who are watching this who care about hydrometer readings. It's at 10:41, and I know this yeast quite well. I reckon it'll finish at about 10:10, 10:11, something like that. So you're talking, it'll be either side of 4%. It'll be like 383, 94, 41, 42, somewhere around there. So what I'll do is I'm going to take you over, and you can have a little look at me fermenter. So that's there. No action whatsoever, obviously, because I've only literally pitched the yeast like 10 minutes ago. And if you see that little black wire that's coming out the top of the fermenter, what that is, that's a heater tube, like what you would have in a fish tank. And literally all that is just rests inside the wort and keeps it warm, so I don't have to worry about having it anywhere. It won't be staying there, obviously, because it's in quite direct sunlight. It will be going in the cupboard under the stairs. I just put it on there so it was easy for us to do this footage. So thanks very much for watching. I hope it helps. Any questions at all, comment. If you like it, subscribe. I do loads. Well, I don't do loads. I did quite a lot of videos. Subscribe, like, leave a comment, ask any questions. If I can't answer them, I'll be able to tell you somebody who can. Simple as that. So always ask the questions. There's a lot of us out here. There's a lot of us doing videos. Lots of us got information. Everything I know about brewing, I've learnt on YouTube. I haven't sat and read any books. All I've done is watched YouTube, been on the forums, been on the Facebook groups, and that's all. That's how I've learned everything I know. So I'll do another video about next steps from being the basic bottom line brewing, and then we're going to work through until, well, basically we're going to grow as I grow. I'm going to keep you one step behind me. Simple as that. So cheers and happy brewing, lads.